We are back with the psychic lawyer, Mark Anthony. He's the author of the books Evidence of Eternity and Never Letting Go. All right, we were talking earlier about several things, spiritual type things in the Bible. Of course, we're coming up on Easter.
Right.
And that's probably the biggest story for Christians.
Well, certainly, and Easter is a time for renewal, rebirth. It shows us through the story in the Bible that life is everlasting. And what I like about the Easter story is the focus on the light, how the resurrection is all about light. And, think of it this way. The light of God, the light is eternal, because even when a star burns out, the light it emits goes on into eternity. I mean, we look up in the stars in the sky at night, and we're seeing the light of stars that burned out millions of years ago because they're passing by us and will continue on an eternal journey into whatever it is that's out there. And so I think that this was part of what Jesus was explaining to people about the light is within. And if you look at it, every great spiritual teacher from 5,000 years ago in India to Krishna, through Moses encountering the bush that burned yet did not burn. God is energy, and how would somebody in the Bronze Age describe an encounter with a highly concentrated form of electromagnetic intelligent energy? The most powerful radiant form of energy they knew would be fire. So he would be describing it, this is a bush that burned yet did not burn. Then Buddha talked about the way to the light. Jesus talked about he was the path to the light, but also finding the light within. And if we go through every great spiritual belief system, the Native Americans talked about the light. And one of my favorite religious scholars was Rumi, an Islamic scholar in the 14th century, and talking about God, he said, the lamps may be different, but the light is the same. So it doesn't matter what path you take to God, the path is God. And God has been depicted as light because that is how we perceive the spiritual energy of God.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. All right, so some spiritual shining here this morning. What else are you getting?
Okay, I feel like I'm being drawn over to this area, but if it makes sense to someone over there, raise your hand. There's a gentleman, and I get like a kind of a fair complexion, but he's the type of guy that if he went out in the sun, he would turn kind of reddish instead of bronzing, and sort of fair complected, kind of a husky build. And with him, I get this dizzy sensation. Now, the dizziness is indicating to me that prior to passing, something hit him real quick, and I'm like feeling almost an explosion in my head. So this could be a stroke or an aneurysm, could be some type of seizure disorder, but I'm kind of going with a stroke because I'm seeing like this bright flash of light behind his left eye. Does that make sense to anyone? To you, in what way?
My husband passed away. He was 41. He actually, the dizziness was from, he kind of suffocated and like.
Okay. Okay. Was he sort of like fair complected, but turned red and a little bit on the husky side?
Yes.
Did he tend to have his hair shorter?
Yes.
Okay. Was it in the strawberry blondish or light brown?
No, kind of brown.
What?
Dark brown.
Light brown?
Dark brown.
Dark brown? Okay, so we're splitting hairs on the hair, but that's okay. Yeah. But he keeps talking about strawberry blonde, strawberry blonde. Does that term make sense to you in any way?
Yes, his stepdaughter, my daughter, is a strawberry blonde.
I'll go with that one. Okay. So his daughter, your stepdaughter, is a strawberry blonde?
Yes.
Okay. Is that her?
This is my other daughter.
Your other, because I just said you don't look like a strawberry blonde. But he does like you. What's with you and olives? Love them or hate them? Is that you hate them?
Yeah.
In evidential mediumship, dislikes are every bit as important as likes. So when a spirit brings up something you don't like, that's every bit as important as something that you do like. And so he wants to address you for a minute. He always felt that you have this innate internal sense of wisdom, that you're the type of person that when you go into a situation, you will observe and not rush to judgment, and then later on you'll contemplate, reflect on it, and then make up your own mind. Does that make sense about her?
Yes.
Okay. He says this is your great strength, and he doesn't want you to change that. He said this is also going to serve you very well, not just in your higher education, but in your life as well. And he said it was an honor to serve as your father. So he wants you to know. Now, I'm going to start crying now because I can feel his love coming through. With his passing, he said he didn't have a choice in the matter. It came upon him so quickly, and even though about 2 weeks prior, there was things going on where he felt like little warning signs, and he thought it was just he was working too hard, he was fatigued, and he said, but then it hit him so massively, and he said, no matter what, nothing could have changed the outcome. What's with you and antibiotics or penicillin? You saw about antibiotics, is someone allergic or...
He was allergic to penicillin.
He was allergic to penicillin. There's the verifiable fact following a message. Okay, so when a spirit gives me a message and then follows up with a verifiable fact, he was allergic to the penicillin. Nothing could have changed the outcome about this because he knows that you are blaming yourself. Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I take him to the doctor? Why didn't I tell him, but what's with the Fritos? Was he eating like the corn chips and the Fritos? And
Yes.
Yeah, you were like, I should have made him not eat that stuff.
Right.
And he's sitting there right now going, like, so what wouldn't have mattered? And the
So do we gain weight in heaven on the other side? That's all I want to know.
Well, you know, it's a good thing. It's a good question you asked that. I'd like to talk about that in a little bit about that because that is a very important thing to bring up. It's not that they eat over there. What he's doing is giving us a point of reference that we can understand, and he's joking around with you. He's letting you know that it would not have mattered if he was eating Doritos or corn chips or nachos or anything else. He said this was going to happen to him, and it has a lot to do with a vascular thinness. There was some veins, some blood vessels in his brain, and it's like the whole vascular system here. It's almost like there was a design defect or a flaw in his vascular system.
You're nodding your head. Why?
In what way?
I'm just agreeing with you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that makes sense. All right.
Yes.
So he doesn't want you to find any fault with yourself. Now, are you taking the strawberry blonde on an Easter egg hunt?
No, she's 19.
All right, hold on. What's with the Easter egg hunt?
I don't know. Nothing I can recall right now.
All right, it may not be coming
She
up.
really likes Easter egg hunts. They would do it together.
Well, that would be a yes
Okay,
then,
yeah.
wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a child in your life, could be a friend or a relative who's a little girl that you can take on an Easter egg hunt?
Boys.
Boys, yeah.
He wants you to do that. He wants you to take on that tradition, okay? And he said because it's about spending time with a child. He said to you it may be something you do on a morning or an early afternoon, but to that little kid that's going to make all the difference in the world. And it's all about you falling into the role of being a big sister, even though technically you're not a big sister. He said with that gift of compassion and listening and assimilating information, this is good training for you too. Also, it's going to help you be more compassionate with those who are not as fortunate with you when it comes to the gray matter.
All right.
So,
thank you very much.
Who's the Pisces? Oh, Pisces time frame. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry. You're a Pisces?
All right.
Okay.
Hold that Pisces. We'll take a break.
Hold
We'll be
that
right
Pisces.
back.
Okay.